use that at work.
What is it?
It's just like an automatic whistle thing, but I figure it would create a specific enough bleep that I can sync up all the audio and video afterwards.
Yeah. What is that? A marker?
Yeah, that's a marker. Guys, welcome back to Jacob V Weekly. We want to start like we do every week by reminding you to check out Caddyshack of Hamel, Illinois, Caddyshack IL on Facebook. Good friends of mine over there. If you happen to give them any money at any point for any reason, it does go directly to rescuing real cats that are real. And it's a family-run operation. She lives with her parents.
Hey, Sarah.
And she's a blessing and an angel. And we had a very successful fundraiser for them a few months ago. So we've rescued thousands and thousands of cats. And you can find them on my website, also jacobv.com, jacobvi.com. I do link them from there. Also from there, you can find patreon.com/jacobv, the only way to support this show financially. And we have some new stuff up there. We're going to start doing free weekly editorials on there since the RFT is now defunct. We'll talk about that. RIP. You can also find my monthly Spotify playlist, Jacob V's favorite songs. If you're a Spotify member, I have those on there. And then we have exclusive drops every week on Patreon of either content from the show or extra stuff we're doing. And when I say we, I mean the royal we. It's me and whoever is available. And that's always growing. So lots happening there. Enough of all of that. We have plenty to plug. Confluence Music Festival next weekend, Blinded by Stereo and Jesus Christ Supercar are tactically opening for Ludacris.
Whoa.
Oh, yeah.
Whoa.
No big deal.
Okay.
So that's a really fun gig. We did Flo Rida last year.
Yeah.
Mr. Florence James Rida. And that was great. No Antics has gigs throughout the summer. Expect new, big, better things from them. There's Flames and Post, I think, is the latest single. You could find that anywhere. Let's get down to business. It is 6:01. It's time to start. I'm here with my friend Chan Maurice Evans. Can I call you that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I just didn't know because sometimes my students get mad if I say like their full name. They're like, "Why are you saying my full name?"
Why my middle name?
Because I have to do attendance and I see your full name. The only time I ever really see it written anywhere.
Yeah.
So I love You People, the music, the title track. Right, there was a song that's also called that.
Right.
And the video for that song, which we're talking a moment ago, you performed that on the Boom Room. I believe that's the same song.
Yes.
And we're talking.
No, the EP is Are We, and the song is You People.
You People,
yeah.
Right. That's what I was hoping I got that correct.
Yeah. I think there's a parenthetical Are We in print.
And so I'm informed about the project and kind of you and some of your history and whatnot, but just for the audience, if you don't mind, for later context, can we establish some of that?
Sure. Yeah.
The history of kind of You People or the mission statement therein.
Yeah. 2015 and 2016, basically, it started as kind of a response to the political climate at the time, and the Black Lives Matter movement comes through, and there's reactions and responses to that, and there's both sides show their ugly heads again, I guess, and all of the chatter that was kind of happening on, Twitter and Facebook and in the news and media, and like protests were looming large. And I called that period, I said it was a direct reaction, and someone later said an allergic reaction to having America having its first black president. And an
overcorrection in the other direction.
Yeah,
I didn't
absolutely.
mean for that to rhyme, but we should write that down.
We're talking about music anyway.
Yeah, right. Thank you, Lucius. This is why we have a facility and people involved.
Yeah, a grand facility too. Yeah. This is cool.
The lights are new. This is the debut of the lights.
Sorry. Oh, really? Oh, hey, cool.
See?
Right on.
I mean, it just it's usually plenty bright in here, but I noticed when I make the clips of the show that the resolution is better if I have more lighting. That was just the stuff hanging from this one. But we were talking about the overcorrection in the other direction.
Right. Yeah. And then I got a message from Brandon Wolford Mason. Actually, ultimately, it was him. It turned out we've got just a bunch of mutual friends in common, but a band as well. I had just left a band, Cave of Swords. I was their touring drummer, and
oh yeah,
yeah,
I remember them.
Yeah.
Oh, that was great.
Yeah.
Did they play at Plush?
Yes.
I saw them at Plush.
Oh, cool. Okay. Plush, that's another great venue that's
that was short-lived. Yeah. Somebody was laundering money. Something was
going on.
Or whoever took over ownership of the building had no interest in what they were doing. I mean, it seemed a little too cool.
Yeah.
To either be profitable or be sustainable.
Did you know that there was like another level upstairs that was like a full apartment, and there was like a rec room and all of this stuff? Did you know about all that stuff? I got to see that and hang out there, and it was cool. And I was like,
but it also could have been a ratio of capacity to, costs.
You got the restaurant next door, and could you sell that place out, 3 times a week?
Well, now it's like an event thing. Isn't that what they call, not Rust? What's the name of, it's a single word.
I can't remember.
It's got to be the same space because it's that same corner.
Yeah.
Over there, like down from where Red Flag is, down from like where Foo Bar was. Where Plush was. But what is it called? It's called like, it's an event space. It's got it's got like a little black box theater that's like the big space that was Plush is most of that. And it's got
it was Sophie's before, and then that was a bar.
Is it a guy's name? Is it called like...
We're never gonna.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But it's very different now, and it's kind of celled off into like 3 different things, and so it makes sense in that capacity. But I don't know how much volume they're doing in there, because again, it's got tons of seats.
Right.
When you make the venue part just the venue part, it's not very big.
Yeah. And excuse me, that just went to another, it was another cool space for bands to play that just didn't get to play. I mean, my band, I played there one time in this band called DiBiase, and we played to the other band and 2 friends, and not for advertising. I guess we just couldn't get people to go downtown or something. Anyway, so got a message from Brandon, and he was talking about, he's like, you and I feel pretty much the same way, and usually, presidencies and politics that go sour, Reagan, and all of these, you get bands like U2, and you get bands like, that have these sort of spurred from, political unrest.
Yeah.
And he was saying, he's like, man, there's just, there's a lot of that stuff going around, but there are not very many black voices in that context.
Yeah, I mean, because
at the time, at least, I don't know,
because you can call U2 a band that was, born as a response of violence in Ireland and this sort of civil war situation that they grew up under.
Yeah,
but then they're also billionaires.
Were they like well off? Yeah, okay. Well,
I don't know that they grew up that way, but now they are.
Yeah.
Now they just put songs in my phone without me asking.
Yeah, right.
So if they were representative of children who were victims of unrest in their community growing up, they certainly didn't stay that way. They're doing yoga in Malibu. The day Bono canceled that show here because there was protest downtown, remember?
Oh, yeah.
He flew privately to Los Angeles to just go out and be photographed at a club. So either he never came here, or he immediately retreated back to California, which is nothing like Wales.
Yeah, that's true.
You know what I mean? He's not Sinead O'Connor. Sinead O'Connor,
she fought the fight.
Was about some shit.
Yeah,
and it made her crazy.
Yeah,
R.I.P.
Yeah.
Turn is the restaurant that is now in
Turn.
That's not. Posh. I'm not thinking of the right thing then. But what is that building called? It's like an event space.
A Turn is what's in there.
Turn. Ugh. I'm thinking of something else then. There's some kind of place called Rick or something. I'm not saying that's the place.
I don't know.
But so
Yeah.
Because this has always been my problem. And it's very a hot topic in kind of across the board right now is, wait a minute, if people of your community are worshiping somebody, but that person's not actually from your community, that's more obvious of a problem. But what if they haven't been a part of your community since they got famous? Right? Like this is the feedback Jennifer Lopez is getting, which is why she made the chopped cheese video.
Which I don't know the chopped cheese. So what I understand of her situation is she's talking about, I'm from the block. I'm Jenny from the block, and I remember when we were running down from da 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 da, and somebody was like, "You were never there.
You were
like,
honey. You weren't there.
Yeah, you weren't there.
Your parents didn't let you out of that house.
Yeah. I mean, poseur.
Right?
Is that the term? Poser.
I'm hoping.
Basically, that's
because it's even like, and I don't want people to isolate themselves in a situation that they feel unsafe in.
Yeah.
But other people stay really involved in the communities that they care about.
Yeah.
That they're from.
Right.
And whatnot in a way that is authentic. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So that is a huge problem that, like, for example, I was just talking about this with somebody today that, recently Killer Mike won all those Grammys.
Yeah.
And Killer Mike has a message and a voice and a perspective that's really valuable, and I think in a lot of ways for a lot of things. And then he gets arrested at the Grammys, not even for behavior at the Grammys.
Right. It was something.
So it's like even if somebody can overcome all those things and create something great and get this award, we could still walk them out of there in handcuffs.
Yeah.
Like that's
Yep.
Even if that wasn't the intended message, it just feels like, I mean, if I was a kid, I don't know that I would think about all the nuances. I would kind of be upset by that.
Yeah. Why was he arrested? Was he just...
It was a warrant for something else. It was like they just knew he was going to be there, and he had a warrant for...
Yeah.
Lucius can look it up.
Isn't it something like, okay, I mean, and authority loves to make examples of people, especially when they're probably at their greatest moment.
Sure.
I'll get to take you down, and I'm not saying that that's what they conspired to do, but it was a hell of a coincidence. This dude's on the, can we cuss? This is for adults and shit, right? Okay, yeah. I don't know whose family's
No. It's not a family thing at all.
We're at the fucking Grammys, and dudes.
We're at the fucking Grammys.
It's the Catalina fucking wine mixer.
It's the Catalina fucking wine mixer. Get Killer Mike out of here.
Yeah, so he's holding his babies, I guess, and gets hauled off. Here, why don't you put those down, sir?
Sir, can you put those babies down and those Grammys?
I guess you fuck around and you find out.
Well, it's also the case, like, there's people that win Grammys and aren't there all the time.
Yeah.
Because they, don't want to go, or they're on tour somewhere else. Or like Prince won a Lifetime Achievement thing one time, but his band was all living in Las Vegas for their residency.
Yeah.
And so he couldn't play, and they wanted him to play, but he couldn't. He wasn't going to uproot his whole, they left all their shit plugged in. They're not going to unplug all their shit. What are you talking about?
I am not wrapping all of those cables.
I'm not even going to ask somebody to do it. They have to stay in their hotel.
So was the question what he got arrested for?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm thinking is that there was a physical altercation right before the Grammys.
Oh, okay.
With a female security guard and
that's less innocent than I made it sound.
Yeah, I don't think that they were like, okay, the SWAT team today's the day to come get him.
My number one defense.
I think it was a same day altercation.
Okay, well that is dangerous. That's how Tupac got killed.
He called it a speed bump. Killer Mike called it a speed bump. So
So he
called her a speed bump?
No, he's calling this whole.
That's the core of the issue, sir.
I would have punched him too.
Yeah, you can't call. She's doing her job. She's on the clock. But here's what I would have said when they arrested me. I would have said, Your Honor, even though they're officers. They're not. I would have said, Your Honor, I hadn't won any Grammys yet when I did that. And now that I've won 3 Grammys, I feel differently about that situation. So my heart is open to resolution on this matter.
So can we just call this even?
Because if it's same day, we could pull the ticket.
Here, I'll give her one.
Yeah, let her punch me. Now that I have all these Grammys, has she ever wanted one of these? I'll let her pick the one. No, I would probably rather take the charge than give up a Grammy.
I mean, you already won it.
It is on Wikipedia already. What am I going to do with 3 of them?
I mean, Grammy award winning goes in front of your name forever.
And it's on the Wikipedia, like the
And it's
specific
on the
one. I don't, you know what I mean?
The Wikipedia.
To keep,
Yeah.
What would the charge ultimately be? Now we're getting into. I would be doing that with the DA in the interrogation room that night. He'd be like, okay, so we're thinking it just sounds a lot like attempted battery, and I'd pull a Grammy out. I'm like, what about now? What about a moving violation? What if I take 3 points on my license, and then I only leave with one of these Grammys?
Just slide it in.
Yeah, sir.
Right in
Sir,
front of
smell
his
it.
eyelash.
Sir, have you ever smelled one of these? That's the part. Nobody. It's so hard to recreate the smell of a fresh gram.
Have you felt the weight?
Do you know how heavy these are? It's not
Of a
real
Grammy?
gold, but that doesn't mean it's not heavy, sir. Pick that up.
Okay, so it's a little bit worse than anticipated
Oh,
as far
Christ.
as like the intent behind Killer Mike and why he did it. So it seems that the woman was simply asking for his ticket, and then he pushed her to the ground.
Oh, God damn it, Mike!
I stuck my. Okay, Mr. Killer Mike. Where's my camera? Okay.
Mr. Mike.
Look, I'm, talking about, hey, they took you down on your day of Grammy when, I mean, they should have. They should have yanked it out of your hand and give him a...
But in this case, we should charge him to the full extent of
Yes.
the law and then go ahead and let him keep all 3 of his Grammys.
Yeah, I mean, because I guess what he did to that lady has nothing to do with winning. The
album was already
work
out.
That won the Grammys.
You have to imagine the vote was already in.
But yeah, that's
But
bad show.
something about those award shows makes people crazy. Because that's not...
I'm not giving him that much. That was kind of weird.
No. Oh, totally.
Yeah.
But it's also,
Excuse me.
and certainly not to excuse violent behavior in any case. It just seems like it must be a lot of pressure.
His name is Killer.
That's also what I said.
Yeah.
When that happened, we were on the road. No Antics was in, I don't remember where, Milwaukee maybe. And we were talking about it on the podcast because we were doing that on the road. And they're like, the headline was just Killer Mike arrested at Grammys. And I'm like, do we even need to specify for what in the headline? Because his name is Killer Mike.
Somebody's probably dead.
Yeah, I mean, and luckily that was the
Hurt.
case.
We're dying.
And
Yeah.
so I didn't realize it happened at the Grammys. So now, so
Yeah.
the start of You People kind of correlated with a kind of a political environment.
Yeah. And when I started writing songs, what Brandon and I decided ultimately is like, we're not going to have every song be about that. Because, I mean, you would have material for days.
No, but it's all of that perspective is going to be throughout all of the topic of conversation in the material.
Yeah. One of the first singles that we put out was called The Fear I Hide, and which features here's crazy, Carl Livingston from oh shit, I'm gonna get in trouble for anyway, I'll come up with he's got a couple of other band names, but anyway, and it was about well, the main line is we fear you but all for nothing, and then Carl came in talking about, he did a couple of verses or 1 or 2 verses, just basically talking about how, we African American black Americans were killed at an alarming, discrepancy,
Disproportionate.
disproportion. Thank you. When I say discrepancy, disproportionate.
Well, there was a discrepancy.
Yeah. And just because, the officer, I don't know, 4 times out of 5 would say, "Oh, I feared for my life."
Right.
You're the one that's got the training. You're the one that's armed, and it's on your
All the
person.
various deterrents.
Yeah, you got mace, you got tasers, all these other things, and you feared for your life, but that guy's dead. And
in many cases unarmed.
yeah, absolutely,
you know what I
unarmed,
mean?
running the other direction,
Often. On camera.
Yeah.
As such.
His exit wounds are through the chest,
Yeah.
and it's so a lot of that, and I think I was much like, many other people, with whatever outlet, this is pre-pandemic, BC, before COVID, that I like to say. So our outlet was social media for the most part. We were really leaning into that at the time. And so Twitter was getting hot, Facebook, Instagram was, how anybody communicated. And he said he's just like, man, I've been following some of your stories. Why don't we just make music about this? And we did. I sat out, made a few about those specific topics, and then there were some other things, like you said, something on your heart. I recently had a breakup and was learning, why the breakup happened. I was like, oh, it was fucking you, dude. Okay. Yeah. And so, it's like, all right, so this is going to be a self-reflective, like, how am I responding to, the unrest in the streets, the unrest in my, social life and all this stuff. And so what great songs are written about,
right.
That kind of shit. So,
well, and because that's the thing you were mentioning too, that, and this answers a question I had prepared that I didn't really know how to finish. And so that helps that, you were mentioning that, and I've talked about this with other artists, that especially locally, there's not a great example of tons of diverse Black voices or voices of color in general. Mm-hmm. And so even just expressing something that's personal and specific to you, you're doing so with your experience and with your background in a way that it's still, even if it's not applicable to everybody, it's important for people that are looking for that representation to have that as an option, to be like, this is what, because it's really bad with film. Mm-hmm. I mean, all the great romances you can think about that you've seen and talked about in the canon of film throughout your entire life. Mm-hmm. There's not really one that is just people of color and with just a traditional outcome, a traditional positive outcome representing any people of color, really, much less Black Americans, which is a demographic I've serviced so much as an educator, and it's something that I just always had a passion for, was that outlet, that parameter of social justice, or whatever you want to call it, where I can pursue it. So there was some hesitation. You're not trying to speak for everybody,
right?
But you have to offer a catalog of an experience that not enough people are getting.
Yeah. I think when I'm, writing any of that material, or like the documentary episodes, it's really me just kind of putting, man, they say it's, God damn it, it's as trope and as cliche as it possibly is. Like, it is kind of a therapy,
Sure.
So like, and I say we, as in, as Sting would, or as Hendrix would have, or whatever, Nina Simone would, we're really just expressing more than what's on our heart and the thoughts that we have every day, but the things, our environment, definitely shapes how we feel, and the words we use, and the people that we're around. They make us who we are. Yeah. And I think when you start writing, kind of drawing from all of that energy, if you're a spiritual person, all this energy never dissipates. It all, we just kind of use it in specific ways and release it anyway. And those kinds of things, everybody's going through. Somehow they've been hurt, by something someone said, whether it was, somebody feels like that, they're being replaced, somebody, an abusive partner, or parent or something, bullies at school, or we all, we've all been hurt, and when you're singing about your true hurt, people can pick up on what that is, and that's how these things kind of spread. And I think kind of connecting that with a musical, hopefully with something that's catchy, was what we were really trying to do. And I think we did that. We built a pretty good, kind of following, I suppose, online or whatever. Our shows came off pretty good. Filled a couple rooms here and there, but
yeah.
But I think with what we were saying, our what a year. That's one of the newest songs. That's one of the last songs that I'd written. And it turned out to be about the pandemic. I didn't realize it at the time.
Yeah.
I was listening to, and here we go with politics. I was listening to something that Marjorie Taylor Greene had said, and something else that Lauren Boebert had said, kind of, manic sort of offerings that they would give us every day. And I said, and that's where, and then the chorus came out. It's like the same things happened on the day to day. Like, okay, every day we're in isolation. It makes no difference. It'll be okay. There's nothing wrong with getting it right. And the thought that went through my head when I was watching this YouTube clip, Marjorie Taylor Greene was like, there's nothing wrong with getting it right. Like you can just say that, okay, I was wrong on this and let's go ahead and fix it, and then, the last line is, everybody is afraid they're on the wrong side. I was like, you know what? These people, as rotten and as nasty as they are, they're scared too, and they've bought so far into what this orange fool was saying.
I think it would be better if more of them were afraid of being on the wrong side.
Yeah.
Some of them
absolutely.
Some of them just want to stay on the side they're on.
Yeah.
The good ones are probably afraid to be on the wrong side. And they're really hoping that their ideals that they themselves probably believe in hold up.
Yeah.
And that's been such a part of the transformative thing. I just want to mention, because you alluded to it, now You People is a band, a musical project, a recording,
entity
mechanism. And it had some videos that I really enjoyed and really I still kind of refer back to, because I've started making my own music videos, and so to see like what people that I know do for music videos, it kind of helps me set the bar and whatnot. But also, you started releasing episodes of I guess you could call it your own docuseries now, of interviews you do with people that have this experience of being considered a sellout, and just their broader experience of being black in the white rock and roll industry. And that's all kind of in preparation for a more autobiographical piece.
I hear that too. I've put out just like little, TikToks or whatever, and like, across the media
and reels.
and just shorts,
as we do for this show.
Look for these. And just to sort of explain, like the title is talking about me, the title is They Called Me a Sellout. It started actually, man, I love the first title. It was called They Called Me Hootie.
Right. Now, I didn't know if the title was going to change or if that was but that kind of thing that, I saw that out there because that's a quote from one of the interviews.
Yes. Well, as it turns out, so there's a friend in California who's starting up a GoFundMe for this project as the beneficiary. We were talking about it, and we were having a phone call, and he said, it's like, I love this series. As soon as I put it on, I went through episode 1 and went straight through 4. I couldn't help it. He's like, but I don't know about the title for 2 reasons. He said, I think that the younger generations, and I think he was talking about his kids because he's got young teenagers that I used to work with too. And he was saying they're not going to know who Hootie was
because he's not even Hootie anymore.
Yeah, he's exactly. And
he's Darius
said,
now.
And that was the next thing he said. He was like, plus, if Darius ever sees this, it might upset him because he went through year and interview after interview to try to shake that.
Well, it was a joke in Jerry Maguire.
Yeah,
that the kids called Cuba Gooding Jr. Hootie in the airport because he was kind of wearing that outfit.
I don't remember that. That's funny. Well, so what happened? I wore a baseball cap at the time. I was in my early 20s or whatever, and just fashion choice, I guess, accessory. And as soon as I'd put on a guitar, somebody from the crowd, Hootie, like,
even an electric guitar.
Yeah, I never played an acoustic guitar. Maybe at like an open mic or something.
What was your hair like at the time?
Just short and cut close.
And then you put the hat on.
And then I put the hat on, and I looked nothing like Darius Rucker.
You don't? That's what I was going to say. Like, there's, so many other comparisons.
Yeah. But
which is a topic that you cover in your episode with the guy from Incubus.
Yeah,
that I love. Because this is a thing Tom Morello always talked about, too, was that people would expect him, when he would show up before he was in Rage Against the Machine, when he would show up to an audition or something, that people would expect him to be like a Hendrixy guy or like a Eric, or like who was the next guy after? Was it Eric Gales, or is that the guy now?
Eric Gales, yeah, he's around now. I mean, Hendrix, and then but
he liked Yngwie and he liked Steve Vai, and you've told me before that you at one point in your life got really into Steve Vai's regimen of practice,
which
8
is
hours
more
a day
ambitious
than I would ever do. But
it only lasted a couple weeks. Really.
No, that's good though.
But it's still
those are numbers. That's your practice for the year. You know what I mean? 8 hours a day for 2 weeks. That's P90X. So that was part of the thing too. It's got to also be aggravating that it's not even necessarily one of your influences,
right?
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And it was an easy association, and and if you want to give some of these people some grace, it's an easy association that they can put their hands. It's tangible for them right at the moment,
and maybe they think they're being nice.
Yeah, and all of that shit.
Or funny.
They always think, they always think that it's like just the or whatever. You got dreads. Oh, you must know where the pot is, eh?
Yeah. I've looked like this since I was 15. So people have been asking me for drugs since before I ever even knew where to get them. I mean, it's been, and that's something that is kind of tangential to what we're talking about too. We've talked about it in versions on this show before, that we impose so much on our children of our own lives and our own insecurities that we create them, because we start worrying about them before they're real yet, and before they've even been inspired by anything unfortunate or external. We just start to create anxiety or fear or maybe bad habits without even knowing it. And I was thinking about this on the way here. Part of what the problem was in the 1970s is the shift in psychology kind of revealed children are adults. And that's not actually what the whole assumption should be. It evolved into the person that we mess up now as a kid is going to be the same person that we have to deal with when they're an adult.
Yeah.
And so it's evolved that way.
Yeah, and
so
got a bank account. Yeah.
So now we can agree across the psychological community that imposing adult sexuality on children is obviously not okay, and never productive or beneficial for the child, right?
Yeah.
Obviously. And it seems crazy, but in the 1970s it was not that crazy.
Right.
And but we haven't necessarily done that in the same way as I see it in education, especially with these issues of race and the environment of, you mentioned being isolated, that you have to be aware of your race more often than I have to be aware of mine.
Right. Yeah.
And that's
you and I could be dropped in any part of the country, and without saying a word, like, they wouldn't hear our Midwest twang or whatever the hell we've got. We could go down south and I'm seen, no matter what. We're in Wyoming, whatever.
Yeah.
You could have come out of a mountain from up there.
And I draw a lot of attention to myself, but it is crazy the privileges that racial assumptions will afford me. For example, in neighborhoods that my parents tell me not to walk in at night, nobody has ever messed with me because they think I'm like a biker dude.
Yeah.
Because I'm big and I have a beard, because they haven't heard me talk yet. Because if they said, man, what are you doing? I'd be like, oh, hey. And they have no idea how.
Hey, girl. Yeah.
Like, it's like the dogs that just want to lick the people that are trespassing. It's like that. They don't know that, though.
Right.
And that's also in an environment where I may be the only Caucasian gentleman. That is a racially informed assumption.
Yeah.
That a white guy that I've seen before that looks like that was this type of person.
Right.
So that's an example of where that's kind of dominoed in my favor. But in the situation that you and I are talking about, that's never typically the case. If someone's making, and this is a part of my problem that's been so dissonant with me with my family, and I'm not trying to make this about me, I'm trying really hard, and that we're the only ones here, that I was sensitive to microaggressions before we called them that, because I saw so many of them.
Yeah.
And I was like, hey, and I think my thing is, I feel like I've always been online, like in a way, not like Terrence Howard, where I feel like I like remember being born, but that there's things I remember witnessing as a child that have very much continue nonstop inform my choices about where I live, where I work, what kind of communities I support and whatnot, as an opposite reaction.
Yeah.
That like I don't want someday my own children or my children in my family to grow up in an environment that's as prejudiced as some of mine was.
Yeah.
And but that also means that those things are new to the people that often perpetuate them.
Right. So what I was putting together, like, okay, so you grew up with, that readily available information. Here's your computer right here. And that access to knowing, to hearing, now these kids, are growing up. I'm going to jump ahead to,
please.
These kids are growing up with memes and all of these, everything that's popular and all the TikTok that's really informing people's decisions, based on relationships, the work that they do, whether they should stick with this job or this person or whatever, and they can see these things right away, like before. So I think all of these people that are so diehard, say the Trumpers or say, diehard Democrats, whatever, right hand, left wing, that were before all of that kind of stuff. It's like we had to really dig, we had to be, had to dig for that kind of information. And some people just got lazy. So they don't know how this, what the right and wrong had, the evolution of right and wrong, and cancel culture is a real serious thing now. And you really have to be careful with what you say in, say moments like this too.
Yeah, sure.
Anyway, I kind of do.
No, but that, because I give you too much at one time. There's 4 episodes out of the series so far.
Yeah.
And one of them was with a couple, and I don't know if they do this together, but he's the director of the Blues Museum here?
No, he was the interim director there, but at the time, yes. Now he is at Vashon Center at Haristo State University. This is Bernie Hayes we're talking about.
Was that episode 2?
2, yes. Yeah. Bernie and UV Hayes. Yeah. And he is the director of, I think I need to know all of these things, but he's got so many credentials.
There's so much listed at the top of that video, and I'll link it. People can go watch it because it's a great episode to start with too, because it looks nice and approachable the way it's shot and whatnot, and it's there, of course, very professional, and it's nice and long. It's like 40 minutes.
Yeah.
So I was able to watch the whole thing. I had it on while I was driving.
Cool.
I was watching The Road, but I had it. I was but just because we're on air, that and so. And it's nice that the series so far has kind of illuminated different age groups of this experience and also different genres.
Right.
Their perspective was incredibly valuable because they were in the old school of radio.
Yeah.
And
the advent, 40s and 50s.
Yeah.
And
she was performing in such a segregated environment that, as they were saying, is still so much of a problem. But she was saying she had no opportunities to play for a white audience until way later.
Yeah.
And then is he the bassist for Incubus?
Yes, Ben Kinney.
He's the bassist.
Well, he was. Yeah, at the time he was. I had some health. Whatever.
Sure.
Anyway,
sure.
Yeah,
it was a while ago.
Yeah. For now,
And that was also so great because it reminded me of similar conversations you hear like this that probably not enough of though.
Yeah.
Because it's the same with we do it with gender, or we do it with all sorts of groups, because even if we adequately in the rock music space, right? Even if we adequately represent artists of color, we're probably overindulging in men of color,
right?
because
Yeah.
otherwise we're going to exclude so many.
You know, and that's the thing about my series too.
Yeah.
Like besides UV, I'm having trouble finding female performers. Actually, someone contacted me a couple weeks ago. Someone from Chicago, and she said my daughter is a performer. She's like blues rock guitar player up here in Chicago. And I watched your series, and I'd really love for her to be a part of this. And she turns out she's her manager. So I don't know this young woman's age. She could be in her late teens. She could be in her early 20s. That's my guess. And then like not even an hour later, I was like, oh yeah, this would be great. Did it? I could come up there. You guys could come catch her on tour, whatever. Yeah. And then not even an hour later, she's like, yeah, I don't think my daughter wants to be in it. I'm like, what? Wait, so why you didn't talk to her? Like, what happened? But I started thinking about it, and it's like, well, maybe, what I had responded to her mother about was like, maybe she doesn't want to incriminate herself, and really talk about these,
right.
And she's just getting started.
Because that's what we hear about next.
Yeah.
Is when we do have specifically strong women of color, we hear about that they're punished for trying to advocate for themselves and blacklisted, for lack of a better term, from their outlet.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Because, again, the people that control so many of the resources, these issues are new to them.
Yes.
And they're not new to the artists that we're talking about,
right.
because they live this way every day, where people are reminding them that they're otherly everywhere they go.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Or they're incredibly isolated, or both.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's got to be hard, especially the first 90% of your career in music, because you're not necessarily the draw or the talent, but that's that huge chasm we talk about in the arts in general, that there's not the same avenues for children of color as students to pursue the different outlets for their creativity, because there's not enough representation in those fields of them. We don't have a long history of gaffers and lighting people from all different cultures, because it's such a hard thing to break out of.
Because it took time. It takes time to get to learn any kind of skill, and often putting time into that, you have to start young before you have to work, and then when I started music in sixth grade. I started playing saxophone. I didn't have to work, so all I had to do was practice, carry it to school, carry it back home, practice. And then, got a drum set, started, getting interested in guitar. I'm 15, 16, hanging out, driving mom and dad's car, got all the time in the world. I don't have anything to do. Maybe homework now. Go see, my girlfriend at the time or whatever, hang out with our friends. Play. Steve Vai's, 8-hour regiment, Steve Vai, Tom Morello, and I think Steve Morse did it too, something like that. So anyway, but then you're 20, 21, 22, you want to go out and drink, you want to go party, you got to have money. Okay, here's the job. And if there are parents, or if there are families, or if there are artists that have that support, that they can get into their 20s and 30s and be supported by someone,
to really explore, and that's the development period, and that you may be talented by the time you get famous, but you may have also been kept.
Right. Somebody supported your tour. Somebody dumped the money. Somebody
just kept you out of the workforce. Somebody just kept you out of rallies for so you could focus on that.
So you had the time to do that. So those kids that have the time to do it, or those, and the families that have the resource to be able to do it, seem to excel.
But also, this is we don't have a long history of people successfully advocating for themselves after they're established as a creative person of color. We don't have a lot of examples of, this singer or this comedian or whatever said something and things got better for them and they became more successful. We don't have a lot of that. So people that you may want to talk to, if they're still working, may be hesitant to put their neck out there, because we don't have somebody that said, no, it's going to be like XYZ. You know what I mean? And because Nike gave Colin Kaepernick $90 million, but he's not back on the field.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I just listened to a similar issue with, acting, and then, you hear about it some. One of the best shows I've ever seen was Living Color, played in a Experience Hendrix thing with Joe Satriani, and their little set of like 3 songs was maybe even still some of the best live music I've ever seen ever.
That's awesome.
And so learning more about them, you learn so much about how they didn't get to like be themselves in their window where they had an outlet to the mainstream because they were called so many things, even positively, that shepherded them into a box.
They're my white whale. It's funny that I use that term.
I know I said blacklisted earlier, and now historically black rock band is the white whale.
If I could get Darius Rucker and anybody or all of Living Color for this series, that would be...
Vernon would be easier to get than you might think.
Yeah, well, actually, so one of the guys that we filmed an episode, Donald Williams, good friend, we filmed outside, and it turned into a windy day, so there's just a bunch of wind noise, and so I have to reshoot with him. His band at the time, Sinister Dane, was discovered at CBGB in New York by Corey Glover, basically. And then Vernon came and met him and said, "Hey, I didn't see the show, but I heard some great things. We want you to go on the road with us." So, and bands like Living Color, like the video for Cult of Personality, and then the movie Crossroads are the 2 reasons why I play guitar. And
I have that on DVD.
You do? Yeah. I love that movie. I love the movie. Just that that whole the head cutting scene did it. I was like, okay, I got to do this. And then I have a 6-part mini series on YouTube about the 6 riffs that changed my life, and that's one of them. I forget which one what number it was, but they weren't in order.
No,
but so what all that to say, Vernon Reid. And seeing him, that representation, like, oh, there's the hair that I thought I always wanted, like I could whip it around like the white guys do, or emphasize my headbanging because I'm rocking this guitar part or whatever.
Take all the glamour of mainstream rock music at that time and then put it with people that you can identify features with. And people that don't miss out on that have no idea how hard it is. To not have that, and to just because everyone
have always had that, and they could never fathom. I think it's always just been that way. What are you talking about?
Yeah, what are you talking about? We had Billy Joel, and we had
right. That song rocks.
For me, I have Hagrid and Bruce Valanche, and you know what I mean. Like I had people that looked like me. They were out there succeeding. And I notice it for my kids all the time. It's so hard for my students. Most of them are like 12-ish. And most of them are, Black Americans that are always struggling with picking the right role model.
Yeah.
Because...
Dude, have me at your class someday, man.
Please.
I'd love to come and talk to him and be like, look.
Absolutely.
You can listen to whatever you want.
You're not a convicted felon.
Right. I am not a convicted felon.
So easy to do.
Yeah.
And then, what's funny? I've wanted to have you on this show for a long time, but I used to only ever do it out of my house.
Oh, yeah.
And mostly for your sake. I was protecting you from the status of how sometimes my house is found. Oh. Because I have 3 big dogs and 2 cats and things like that. Sure. And it's kind of similar in this society. I'm certainly not protecting anyone's children from you, but there are some impulsive behaviors I may want to protect you from.
Oh,
but it's certainly something
that don't scare me.
Well, good. Because they scare me. And but it's such a blessing to be able to try to have access to them when they're looking for those things and to point them in the right direction. And we watched some of Ken Burns' jazz docuseries, and I have little 12-year-old kids.
You said they're out of class now, right? Play one of the episodes. Play Steve's episode.
Well, that's the thing. And any one of those would be a great reference point. I do have a half day with them on Tuesday.
Oh, so cool.
Now that I have your permission.
Or episode 3, maybe that's 2 guys, 2 of the guys that were in You People.
Oh, right.
So young Brandon Patton, he's got locks like me, and then Brandon Wolford Mason, the other half.
Who I know.
Yeah, you know Brandon. Right. Yeah.
Because I just played with that choir.
Yeah.
And but that's the thing with, I have little kids who dress like how 12-year-old kids in that environment dress right now, you know, with their stylized things and whatnot, but they're playing trumpet because they liked the Louis Armstrong bit of the docuseries.
Yeah.
And because where on television or in the algorithm on the internet are we seeing anybody of playing an instrument at all?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Instead of even if it's a song they made, they're just kind of lip syncing it for TikTok or something. Much less somebody that looks like you, that has the same values that you do, that experience the same challenges as you, doing something like playing an instrument. And I don't want to keep you all night, but
I'm having fun, man.
You do also have a Prince story, and that also is relevant. Didn't you have to tech for that?
I did.
For him?
I was a stagehand.
Stagehand is the word. That's what I mean. And but also, Cat Williams said something on a podcast recently about how Prince was so good at guitar that black people kind of just gave up on caring about guitar. and I don't know if that's true. I wouldn't presume to make an assumption myself one way or the other, but guitar specifically as the instrument has got to be even more isolating as you try to build out this thing we're talking about.
It's so weird. So thinking back to, you know, when I was asked those questions, why you play that white boy music? Why you listening to that white boy stuff? Like,
where do you think they got it?
Yeah, it's right. And see, that's the thing. That's what I didn't know at the time. And if I could, you know, just pull out a picture or pull out my iPhone, you know, and be like, look, Chuck Berry, look at this guy, Jimi Hendrix. Like you're
Chuck Berry even having the local thing.
Yeah.
And even before, I mean, in your youngest days, it would have been before so much of the scandal, which wasn't nearly scandalous compared to what people are scandalized for now.
Oh my God, yeah.
But Chuck Berry, or my thing was always B.B. King. My grandmother loved B.B. King.
Yeah. Oh, my grandfather. Yeah.
And my grandfather wanted to dress like him.
Yeah.
And my grandfather loved John Lee Hooker.
This is my grandfather's ring, and this was.
Oh, I remember you had this resized.
I called it his B.B. King ring.
Yeah.
Basic. Yeah. So.
Yeah. And so, I mean, it's just like, to the point where even before I knew I wanted to play guitar, for me, in my brain, a masterful top tier guitar player looked like B.B. King.
Yeah.
Even before I thought I could play guitar.
Yeah.
That's what I thought. But that's not what everybody thinks.
Yeah.
And certainly not at that time.
Right.
Before he was, you know, in his third act of his life and being heralded as a living legend. And,
yeah.
You know, when you were a young man, it wasn't even necessarily, you didn't have as much of that talking about, oh, look at this. We're only going to talk about one black guy, but look at, he's a genius.
Right.
Like that's what I kind of like grew up in. And it frustrated me that there wasn't more representation, but I had representation of people that didn't look like me that were great at things. Whereas it was probably even more limited in, I mean, the 80s.
I saw like the first things that, you know, the first music that I was exposed to, actually, my first musical memory was the Doobie Brothers. And this is, you know, I was born in Indianapolis and I was maybe 3 or 4. And I just remember hearing this odd voice. And I asked my dad, I was like, what is with this guy's voice? Like, who is that? He's like, oh, this is Michael McDonald.
Yeah. Who's also from here.
Who's also from here, yeah.
And being a tenor myself, I get the comparison unnecessarily. Something like I don't
listen, baby. But like I knew, and thinking back about that, it's like I heard a distinct voice. I heard something stood out to me about this music. It wasn't just like, oh, this makes, you know, like a Wiggles song, but you know, just bounce into something happy. Like I'm hearing a part of this song that this guy is known for, like his voice. You know, one of the most recorded voices in the United States, backing vocals.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I celebrate the whole catalog.
Yeah. Well, and just kind of growing up with that, like hearing this voice, and then it's Doobie Brothers, and it's sort of rocking, it's kind of R&B, and then the next thing I remember is just hearing my aunts listening to Magic 108 FM here, which was R&B.
Yeah.
And that was it. And then we'd go to church. Mom dragged me to church, and I'd hear the choir. And so I'm hearing all these different kinds of things that are melodic, but nothing really moved me, you know, other than just kind of remembering something turned the light on. Michael McDonald, I guess, turned the light on. And then
that you liked music.
That I liked music. I knew that was happening. But I heard I was visiting my grandmother in Indianapolis, and I was up all night, slept in the living room because that's where the spot was, and she had this big old TV, and I turned it on and I found MTV and Pet Shop Boys. Western Girls was the first song that I heard. I was like, what is this?
And as a kid, I wasn't alive yet when it came out, but as a kid, I loved that song because it was on a soundtrack for something. And in the 90s, soundtracks were the jam.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't all one thing.
Because it was linked to those, those teen movies anyway.
Absolutely. It had its own video already. It was big, larger than life.
Yeah.
But something about that song must be really easy for a kid to listen to and say, "Ooh, bleep, 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 bleep." I love this.
Yeah, it was just those chords that kind of came in. I was like, oh man, that's soothing. That's way different than anything I've ever heard.
Yeah, satisfying before we had that.
Yeah. And then going through pop, and then I hear the guitar sounds, and the drums were kind of cool. The Linn drum was a big thing at the time. You see Prince, and then he's got this great guitar. And then I just started like, okay, there is this visual aspect, and I think I was paying more attention to that, and finding out, like John Landis was making Michael Jackson's next music video, and it's like, this guy's a director, like he makes movies. This isn't just for this thing. This is wow, this is. These people are taking this serious. It isn't just something that's programmed or just sheet music and somebody plunks it out and you hear it at the grocery store.
Yeah. Well, especially at that time, because it was the first time the artist could take it from humming it in their head to fully producing not just the song, but a video that's going to go into homes all over the world.
But somehow guitar kind of found its way in there, and then Vernon Reid, that riff, and then
which riff?
Cult of Personality.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, and then Corey swinging. He had these extensions, maybe at the time, but they were braids or whatever. And all the guys were natural looking dudes.
Very natural looking, and the singer has a very jovial. Even though the music can be very serious, and passionate, and in its message or whatever, he's got a very very thing, and he's got a big teethy smile, and you can almost like a Louis Armstrong or something, where his face when he's singing becomes larger than himself.
Yeah.
And it's captivating in a way that it was important to connect with really young audiences, but also for all of them to just be on that pedestal like that when that video came out, and it looks like a Rat video, or it looks like a Motley Crue video, or whatever the thing of the time was.
But they didn't have, women jiggling around and stuff like that.
There's nobody in it but them.
The band.
It's just them and their message and their energy, and to just proudly, this is the thing I think a lot of white people don't understand, that it's a bold choice to present yourself in your natural way when you're in a minority subgroup of any kind. There are tons of cultures that aspire to look more Aryan or more whatever. People do crazy things to their children to lighten their skin in other cultures even. But even as recently as 1987 or whatever that would have been,
that was 87. I think.
It was 87. I'm good.
Yeah, that was
Write
good.
that down. From the hip. That was a great year. Sign of the Times was that year.
Yep.
But even as recently as 1987,
87, 88.
It was part of the conversation even then that, this band is so bold and so brave, and they're wearing their blackness out loud like this.
Yeah.
When it's not that crazy. They just look like that if you don't intentionally change how they look.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right, exactly. If you don't, fuck with the formula, basically. That was their formula, and that was what they were doing, that was who they were. And what was cool about Corey's voice too was he was delivering that Robert Plant power, but with, Aretha Franklin and those, the blues pentatonic scale, he was delivering, what I heard on Magic 108, but like those guys on MTV,
putting those two things together.
Yeah. And I was like, oh shit, there it is. I don't know. There are just a handful of instances in my life where I was not petrified, but stuck in place.
Stunned.
Absolutely stunned, yeah. And just, the first time I heard Stars by the band Hum. I was late for work, sat in my car, listened to the whole thing, ran in. I heard Jeff Buckley singing Be My Wife or Be My Woman or something like that on Live from Shanae. Couldn't move, you know.
He's done that to me a couple of times.
Just I have to finish this. Nobody speak to me, you know. Don't touch me. Don't touch me.
Yeah.
And
especially if you already picked up food. You're sitting in the car in front of your house. Like, I got food here. There's 9 minutes on this song. I'm glued.
Your milkshake is leaking out, you know.
Yeah.
Excuse me. And that moment, you know. The time that I heard OK Computer for the first, like, Airbag kicked in. And the story, and it was one of those episodes too, you know, a friend had just recently passed away, and we're in the minivan going down to the funeral, or going down to the cemetery after the funeral, and they put that song on, or that album on, and it was just perfect. And I don't remember the drive. I just remember the album, you know, and the other moment, one of these other moments is the cult of personality just kicking in. It's just like, that's it.
Yeah.
That's it. All right, and I got to learn everything else that I can about it.
Yeah, and it was a thing that not only said you have to do this, but that you could.
Yeah,
it was possible. I had a very similar story I've told before about when I first saw the White Stripes. It was so primitive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That because I was into it and it was funky and it wasn't like unattainable in any way. It was certainly not like sexual or anything that a lot of music was at the time.
Yeah.
So for me being the age I was at the time, it was like, oh, this seems doable.
Yeah.
And interesting.
Yeah.
Because there's lots of things that seem doable and lots of things that seem interesting. But when they're, you know.
They made punk cute.
Yeah.
Really, you know.
And safe.
Yeah, right.
In a way that it wasn't inauthentic and it wasn't perfect, and they kind of were a part of the whole like lo-fi thing that was, you know, at that time.
Lo-fi punk blues kind of.
Right. And that whole garage rock thing that kind of happened, where it was also important because we're living in the same era as early Pro Tools, where and the mastering wars. So it was like, well, what if we did something analog that was retro, but also done in a new way?
Yeah.
And because otherwise I just would have assumed if it doesn't sound like Whitney Houston, it's not worth releasing.
Right.
But you needed examples of something that electrified you that was also worth pursuing because it was tangible. It was realistic in some way.
Yeah.
And it's just so hard, especially when you're trying, like we do, to teach kids how to fall in love with and play an instrument.
Yeah.
To find an example that's going to connect with them
on
that instrument.
Yeah.
I mean, thank God for YouTube, because it's the only way currently that I can get, you know, a kid that looks like my kids with a trombone.
Yeah, right.
Or with a, you know, whatever the thing is. And but also for guitar, you got, I mean, as a young black guitar player, you get like a couple of A-list role models a decade,
right?
In the zeitgeist, where you know what I mean. If Rolling Stone puts out a list, you know, or something,
and Jimi Hendrix has been there the entire time. But you know, Tosin Abasi is the next freshest guy. There's a kid from around here, Josh Travis. I shouldn't say kid. He's probably 25 or 30 by now.
I do that too. Anybody under 30 is a kid now.
Yeah, he might be 35 years old, 40 years old. I don't know.
He looks young though.
Yeah. He when I was 25, he was, you know, maybe 15 or 17, something like that. So he's got to be around here, around 40.
And that's the thing too. We always want to talk about the end of a certain instrument or the end of it being in fashion, or a generation isn't connecting with it. But then we meet people like that. I just met a graduating senior who plays circles around me on my piano in my room. And
on your turf, huh?
Comes into my room uninvited and plays me to filth. And I know, but it was his big day. He was dressed up. I was like, you know what? I'm going to let him have this one, but don't let me get the guitar out.
You got your little bow tie.
Don't let me get the guitar out just because you got real shoes on today. So You People is not just the band, but also kind of the brand that the docuseries is out on that same YouTube channel.
Yes.
And I've watched all of it again this week, and
awesome. Thank you.
Of course, I really enjoyed it, and because again, finding any content like that about an issue like this, especially that's in any way local, or regional, or what have you, it's just a precious resource. And
Yeah.
so, and I also wanted to, anything I can do to support or help in the way of production. I mean, this is kind of the best I get right here.
No, man, this is awesome.
But-
this is really cool.
But in
Yeah,
the
thank you.
sake of, because I'd love to see more of those episodes. I'd love to see that project continue.
Yeah.
So in the way that I can offer support in any way, I want to make sure. I think you and I are going to have to do this again.
Yeah,
and sometime
I would love
soon,
to,
at
yeah.
some point. But you people is spelled YOUPEOPL. It's just
Correct.
you people, but as one word with no e at the end, and it's real easy to find that way on YouTube, and it'll be linked in both versions of this episode. But so what? This is a pause I'm going to have to cut. It's so pregnant that I'm just trying to think of, so we've established some of the history, your motivation to pursue the sort of subject matter of the project. And it totally makes sense, the natural progression from like a live band with original material into what's kind of come into like a docuseries. It's kind of what this show has done for me, is that like at the time I couldn't make music because it was quarantine.
Yeah.
And, but I was like, well, what if I could communicate with the people I know from that community on a weekly basis?
Yeah.
In my case, because at most we release 12 songs a year at the absolute most.
Right, yeah.
So that's only 12 observable points of contact, whereas this is supposed to come out every week. The Patreon does. So, the series doesn't necessarily have a finite end.
No, that's what I'm figuring out too. I so kind of just like the Boom Room, episodes. He's stopped it. I think they're over 100 episodes, but it just
And that's
grew.
Blip Blap video here. I'll link
yeah.
your performance with them too, so people can see that
Cool.
channel if they haven't seen it, because it's a rare resource we have locally.
Yeah,
we don't have we don't have 1,000 people with nice cameras and that know how to use them.
Yeah, right.
That are trying to even collaborate with musicians.
I'm trying to kind of take the torch, like Bill Streeter. Lo-fi.
Lo-fi's ending
done.
too.
Yeah,
Lucius and I have been talking about this, and Molly from No Antics, because we're all have an engineering background and we make our own video content and stuff, and it's like, I've known these guys my whole career for 20 years in St. Louis, working and performing and learning, and they've both been doing that here this whole time.
Yeah.
So naturally, eventually
Right.
they're going to move on. I'm glad they can move on before they're dead.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Thank God.
Yeah.
And they're both handsome and distinguished, and I'm sure they would offer plenty in the sake of wisdom and whatnot, but it is something that you have to be doing for another reason other than just making money, because you may not make any.
Yeah, absolutely.
Especially if you're trying to do stuff with DIY artists and really include people that don't have access to the resource and whatnot. It's got to be a pursuit that is engaging for you creatively and technically. I learn every time I do one of these more about this stuff.
Yeah.
And
I'm just really excited to get back into the photography aspect. I when I was living in Chicago, I went to this barely accredited school, and I was studying visual communications, and that's where I learned about film, video editing, photography, lighting, all of these things. So I had made a couple of music videos and did my 10,000 plus hours of walking around the entire city. I called it a walkabout. I have, I don't know how many
hours of footage,
just hours of footage and photos. And anyway, so and kind of, it's crazy, I'm coming back to this. Anyway, that's I'm getting back to skills that I'm just kind of wiping the dust off of, and so it's really kind of getting interesting yet again, to figure this stuff out.
I got Final Cut certified in college because I had to be an employee of the student radio station.
Oh yeah,
and then I didn't touch it for 10 years.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But then.
Yeah.
Past couple of years.
Yep.
So many people need to do video for just about anything.
Yeah.
Anything that you're doing. Kids at home, you should come here to doorstop-studio.square.site and book some time and shoot some video. Because you need a video for something. If you're opening your own toys, if you're if you're making bagels at home, if you're still doing the COVID sourdough, if you've been really crafting that, if you're a singer or a dancer, that kind of thing, because
high production value audition tapes are
absolutely, it's
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
You could
It's
land
everything
the
to your
gig of
career.
your dreams and just come here for an afternoon and then go home and clip it together and make yourself look great.
Yep.
And, you know, cut out all the restarts and whatever. And you just look and do that little opening fade from black, the fade
Yeah.
from black.
Yeah.
And then you fade to black at the end.
Yeah.
And, because that's the thing. So we all, when you and me learned that stuff initially, we thought that, I'm only going to use that if I go into like broadcasting as like
Yeah.
a TV guy.
Yeah, I'm gonna
It didn't
do it for
even
my
exist.
band. Yeah, and then I went on to do the
YouTube didn't
band.
exist
Yeah,
yet. When
right.
so you and me hadn't even thought about,
Yeah.
I'm going to use this for something that's coming.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So thank God we remember that stuff.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it takes that practice to really work through it. But they called me a sellout. You
Yes.
People Music on YouTube. And the music is out there. Some of it's for sale on Bandcamp. So if you're
Yes.
feeling super generous, I know that that's a great way to get the music, because you get a full lossless quality version of the file. And then also the music goes, the money goes more so to the artist than if you just stream it on Spotify. But Spotify is your access. Please still check it out.
Yeah, it's there too. Yeah.
And I'm going to link the YouTube channel here so that we can forward people to these episodes, because that's going to be their assigned homework.
Yeah. You can also use clips of our songs on TikTok too.
Oh, and that's huge.
We're there. Yeah.
And which also means it's on Instagram.
Yes.
And that's like, because I used to be able to pick my profile song on MySpace.
Man, I miss that.
We don't get to, but now Instagram, I can put the
Yeah.
song in there. I scratch that itch a little bit. I get to curate a song for
Yeah.
my audience doesn't like it. They
Yeah.
don't like that I post a picture and a song is playing. They're like, I'm on the toilet in a cubicle. I can't have the song playing.
Yeah.
Which is why I don't do more on Snapchat, because people
like,
always tell me they can't
nobody
listen
knows
to it.
I'm
I'm
in
like,
here. Yeah.
well, then why did I send it to you? Why did I perform the audio if you don't need
It's
it?
like, well, where do you think I put this video together?
I just feel like there's so much we could get into, but this one camera already ran out of juice, out of memory,
Oh.
which is what I kept looking at. So,
Yeah, okay.
so that's why I always have two. So that's just the last 3 minutes. I think we lost that one.
Oh, okay. Oh, I
So-
see that it's
Yeah.
Oh,
So,
wow.
guys, Jacob V Weekly on all platforms. You people, my friend Chan Maurice Evans. I would expect a part 2 pretty soon, because we didn't even get to everything I wrote down to talk about.
Oh,
So,
man. Yeah.
yeah, there's plenty out there.
Yeah, have me
and
back, yeah.
I'm excited about it being an ongoing conversation and the fact that the series is going to continue.
Yeah.
So, Jacob V Weekly, patreon.com/Jacob V, JacobV.com, Caddyshack. We got to go. We don't have an option. My memory card is full.
Awesome, dude.
I mean, what?